Part 1: The Coffin and the Ghost. Rain fell steady and cold over the graveyard. It soaked through black coats and dripped off umbrellas held too low. Everyone stood in a loose circle around the hole in the ground. At the center sat a polished wooden box. Smooth. Shiny. Final. I stood near the front, my hands clenched tight around a damp tissue. My chest felt hollow, like someone had scooped everything out and left only this numb ache. 3 weeks ago they told me he was gone. A car crash on Highway 9 late at night. Rain on the road. Skid marks. Fire. Nothing left to identify except dental records. They said it was quick. I wasn't sure if that made it better or worse. The priest spoke in a low, calm voice about peace and rest and returning to dust. His words blurred together. All I could hear was the drumming of rain on umbrellas and the soft sniffles from the small group of people gathered. Some were his co-workers from the tech company. Men in dark suits who barely knew him but came anyway because it was expected. A few distant relatives I hadn't seen in years. My parents stood close by, their faces pale with worry, not just for me but for themselves, lost in their own kind of grief. I kept my eyes down mostly, staring at the wet grass, at the mud starting to form near the edge of the grave. But then something made me look up. It was just a flicker at first. A shape in the back near the old willow tree, its branches hanging low like it was mourning too. My breath caught in my throat. There. A man. Tall. Broad shoulders. Standing slightly apart from the others. He wore a long dark coat, collar turned up against the rain. But the way he held himself, the tilt of his head, the set of his jaw, it was him. It was him. My heart slammed against my ribs so hard I thought it might break through. My fingers went ice cold. For a second the world stopped. The rain, the priest's voice, the mourners, all of it faded away. There was only that figure under the willow. Daniel. Alive. Impossible. I blinked hard. Rain stung my eyes. When I looked again, the spot was empty. Just swaying branches and gray mist. Had I imagined it, grief playing tricks on my mind after sleepless nights and too many cups of cold coffee? But it had felt so real. So solid. Before I could even begin to untangle the knot in my stomach, my phone buzzed. Sharp and sudden against my thigh where it was tucked in my coat pocket. I almost jumped. No one should be texting me right now. Not here. With trembling fingers I pulled it out, trying to keep it hidden under my coat. The screen lit up. Unknown number. One message. Run, they're watching us. That was all. No name. No explanation. Just those 3 words that sent a jolt of pure fear straight through me. My stomach dropped. I looked around fast, scanning the faces of the mourners. Were they watching me? Who was watching us? The priest finished his prayer. People began to shift, moving closer to the coffin to drop roses or say quiet goodbyes. My mother touched my arm gently. You okay, honey? You look pale. I forced a nod. Yeah. Just need some air. Be right back. I didn't wait for her reply. I turned and walked quickly away from the grave, weaving between headstones, trying not to run. Every step felt like someone was watching my back. Every shadow between the trees seemed to hold eyes. I didn't stop until I reached the far gate of the cemetery. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely pull out my phone again. The message was still there. Run, they're watching us. Who sent this? Was it him? The man under the willow. Was Daniel alive? And if he was, why warn me to run? Why not just come to me? And who were they? My mind raced through possibilities, none of them good. Daniel worked in tech. Quiet job. Long hours. He never talked much about his projects, just said it was data stuff, boring but stable. Could something have gone wrong? Had he gotten into trouble? Or was this something else entirely? I needed to get out of here. Now. I stepped out onto the quiet street and raised my hand. A taxi slowed down, its tires hissing on the wet pavement. I gave the driver the address of a cheap motel across town, somewhere I'd never been before, somewhere with no connection to me or Daniel. As we drove away, I watched the cemetery shrink in the rear window. Rain streaked the glass, blurring everything into gray smudges. Inside the motel room, I locked the door. Then the chain. Then the deadbolt. I leaned against the cool wood, breathing hard. My clothes were damp, my hair stuck to my forehead. I slid down to the floor, hugging my knees. What just happened? The funeral. The ghost. The text. It felt like a nightmare, but the cold tile under my palms was real. The smell of stale carpet and cheap cleaner was real. The terror squeezing my chest was real. I pulled out my phone again. The message still glowed on the screen. I wanted to call someone. My mom. A friend. But who could I trust if someone was watching me? If they had eyes on the funeral, they might be watching my calls too. I thought about Daniel. His laugh. The way he always burned toast on Sundays. The little scar above his eyebrow from a childhood bike accident. Was that really him back there, or was I losing it? Then another thought hit me like ice water. If Daniel was alive, and he faked his death, why didn't he tell me? Why leave me standing in the rain crying over an empty coffin? Unless he couldn't, unless telling me would put me in danger. The message said they're watching us. Not just me. Us. That meant whoever sent it knew Daniel was alive too. Maybe it was someone helping him. Maybe it was a trap. I stared at the blank TV screen across the room. My reflection looked back, pale, wide-eyed, haunted. Outside, the rain kept falling. Steady. Relentless. Like the world didn't care that my husband might be alive. That my life had just cracked open in the worst possible way. I stayed on the floor for a long time. Listening. Waiting, jumping at every sound from the hallway. Every car that passed on the wet street below. Hours passed. The light outside faded from gray to deep blue. Night came. Just as I started to think maybe I'd imagined everything, that grief had finally broken me, a sound came from the other side of the door. Not a knock. Not a voice. A tap. 3 quick taps. Then 2 slow ones. My blood turned to ice. That was our signal. Daniel's and mine. From years ago, when we used to sneak out to meet as teenagers. 3 fast, 2 slow. Safe. It's me. My heart pounded so loud I could hear it in my ears. I crawled to the door on my knees. Peered through the peephole. And there he was. Standing in the dim hallway light. Soaked. Exhausted. Eyes wide with fear. Daniel. Alive. He saw me through the lens. Held up one hand, palm out. Then pointed urgently at my phone. I didn't move. Couldn't move. He mouthed 2 words. Open. Door. I stared at him. At the man I buried today. At the ghost who just tapped our secret code. Every instinct screamed to unlock the door. To throw my arms around him. To demand answers. But the text message echoed in my head. Run, they're watching us. Was this really him? Or was it someone wearing his face? I stayed frozen on the other side of the door. The silence stretched thin and sharp between us. Rain whispered against the motel window. Somewhere down the hall a door slammed. He tapped again. 3 quick. 2 slow. More urgent this time. And then he whispered through the wood so low I almost missed it. Please. They're coming. Part 2: The Safe House and the Stranger. I unlocked the chain. My hand shook so bad it took 3 tries. The deadbolt clicked open with a sound too loud in the quiet room. I pulled the door back just enough to see him clearly. Rainwater dripped from his hair onto the hallway carpet. His eyes, those eyes I knew better than my own, were bloodshot and darting toward the stairwell like he expected someone to come charging around the corner any second. He didn't speak. Just held out his hand. Not for me to take. Just there. Open. Waiting. I stepped back, letting him in. He slipped inside fast and shut the door behind him. Locked it himself. Double-checked the chain. Then leaned against it, breathing hard like he'd run miles. For a long moment we just stared at each other. Him dripping wet and hollow-cheeked. Me standing barefoot in socks that had holes in the toes. This wasn't the man I said goodbye to at the cemetery. This was someone hunted. Finally he spoke, his voice rough like sandpaper. You saw me. I nodded. Couldn't find words. I didn't want you to see me. Not there. Not ever. He ran a hand over his face. But they were watching you. I saw them. 2 men near the gate. 2 still. 2 alert. That's when I knew Anya was right. Anya, I asked. The one who texted you. She works inside Viridian. My old company. She's been trying to get word to me since everything went wrong. He moved to the window, pulling the thin curtain aside just a crack. Peered out into the rainy street below. We can't stay here. They'll trace the cab. Maybe already have. Trace the cab, my voice came out thin. What are you talking about, Daniel? What is happening? He turned back to me. His expression was grim but not unkind. Like he was bracing himself to say something awful. The crash wasn't an accident. It was staged. They made it look like I died so I'd disappear quietly. No questions. Who's they? Viridian Dynamics. The people I worked for. The project I was on, it wasn't just software. It was something else. Something dangerous. I found files. Proof they were building a system that could track anyone. Predict what they do next. Influence choices. Not just ads. Big things. Voting. Relationships. Even health decisions. And they were selling it. To governments. To private groups. People who don't care about rules. My stomach twisted. Viridian was everywhere. Their logo on phones, apps, smart homes. Friendly. Trustworthy. Or so everyone thought. You tried to stop them. I tried to report it. Internally first. Then I copied everything. Planned to go to the press. But they found out. Fast. Next thing I know, my car's brakes fail on a wet road. Fire everywhere. I barely got out before it blew. Someone helped me. Got me off the grid. But they declared me dead. Closed the case. Easy. So why warn me? I asked, my voice cracking. Why let me stand there crying over an empty coffin? His face crumpled for a second. Real pain. Because if they thought I was truly gone, they'd leave you alone. You were safe as long as you believed I was dead. But today, seeing you at the funeral, they know you might be a link. Or bait. Either way you're not safe anymore. He pulled a small waterproof pouch from inside his coat. Handed it to me. Inside was a tiny USB drive. This has everything. Names, dates, transactions. Enough to burn Viridian to the ground. But only if it gets out. What do we do now? We run. Right now. Anya sent another message 10 minutes ago. She's in trouble. They're closing in on her too. She gave us a place to meet. An old friend's apartment downtown. Supposed to be clean. He moved to the door, already scanning the hallway through the peephole again. Grab your bag. Only what you need. Phone charger. ID, cash if you have it. Leave everything else. I stuffed my few things into my backpack, heart pounding. As I zipped it up, I looked at him, really looked. The lines around his eyes were deeper. His hands wouldn't stop moving. Checking pockets. Adjusting his collar. This wasn't paranoia. This was survival. We left the room fast and quiet. Took the stairs down 2 at a time. The lobby was empty except for a bored clerk scrolling on his phone. We walked out into the rain without looking back. The city felt different now. Every passing car seemed suspicious. Every person on the sidewalk might be watching. We didn't hail a cab, walked instead, keeping to side streets, ducking under awnings when headlights swept too close. After 20 minutes of winding through alleys and back roads, we reached a narrow building with flickering neon above a closed bookstore. He led me up 4 flights of creaky stairs to a door with no number. Knocked twice, paused, then 3 quick raps. The door opened a crack. A woman's face appeared. Early 30s, dark hair pulled back tight. One eye swollen nearly shut. She looked exhausted but alert. "You're late," she whispered. "Traffic," Daniel said grimly. She let us in fast, locking the door behind us. The apartment was small, cluttered with books and mismatched furniture. Smelled like coffee and worry. "This is Anya," Daniel said. She nodded at me, then turned to him. "They hit my place an hour ago. Broke the lock. Took my laptop. I barely got out the fire escape. They know I helped you. They know I contacted her." She jerked her chin toward me. "Did they follow you?" Daniel asked. "I don't think so. But we don't have long. They've got facial recognition on every corner now. Especially after tonight." Anya moved to a small desk in the corner, pulled out a laptop wrapped in a towel. Turned it on. "I managed to save this. Burner machine. Off the grid. I've been monitoring their chatter. They're calling you Ghost now. Said you vanished from the morgue before the body could be confirmed. They're furious." She typed fast, fingers flying. "They've got teams sweeping known associates. Your parents' house is under watch. Your office too. They think you'll try to contact someone you trust." Daniel paced the small room. "We need to get this drive to someone who can use it. A journalist. Someone with reach." Anya shook her head. "Too risky. They'll intercept it. Or kill the messenger. There's only one way. You have to get it out of the country. To my sister. Elena. She's in Berlin. Works with a watchdog group that's been tracking Viridian for years. She has the key to decrypt the files. Without her it's just noise." "Berlin?" I said, stunned. "How?" "Train tonight," Anya said. "Midnight. From the North Station. Tickets are already bought. Under fake names. I arranged it before they hit my place. You leave in an hour." My head spun. Train. Berlin. Fake names. This wasn't he just running. This was disappearing forever. Daniel looked at me. Really looked. You don't have to come. I can go alone. You can stay. Lie low. Change your name. I thought about my parents. My job. My life. All of it built on a lie now. And then I thought about the coffin in the rain. The empty box. The fear in his eyes. No, I said. If they think I'm with you, they'll hunt me anyway. And if I stay, they'll use me to find you. I'm coming. He didn't argue. Just nodded. Reached out and squeezed my hand. His palm was cold but his grip was firm. Anya handed us 2 small envelopes. Tickets. Passports. New identities. Memorize them. Burn the envelopes after. Don't carry anything else, phones included. They're trackers now. She pulled 2 cheap prepaid phones from a drawer. Use these only to coordinate until you're on the train. Then ditch them. No calls. No texts. Assume every signal is watched. She looked at Daniel. Be careful. They've got new hunters. Quiet ones. Don't make mistakes. He met her gaze. Thank you, Anya. For everything. She gave a tired smile. Just make sure it matters. We left the apartment 10 minutes later. The rain had eased to a mist. The city lights glowed wet and distant. We walked fast, shoulders hunched, heads down, blending into the late-night crowd heading home from bars or night shifts. Every shadow felt alive. Every siren in Part 3 whispers in the dark. The train station was a maze of echoing footsteps and flickering lights. We moved through it like ghosts, heads down, shoulders hunched, keeping to the edges where the crowds thinned. The fake passports burned a hole in my pocket. My new name, Lena Shaw, felt alien on my tongue even though I hadn't spoken it aloud. Daniel walked half a step ahead, scanning every face, every doorway, like he expected danger to leap out from the shadows. We found our platform just as the digital board flickered to life, announcing the midnight train to the border. 10 minutes to departure. Too many people. Too exposed. Daniel's hand brushed mine once. A silent signal. Stay close. We bought coffee from a vending machine not because we wanted it but because it gave us something to do, something normal to hide behind. Steam curled from the cups, warming my frozen fingers. I watched the clock tick down. 9 minutes. 8. Then Daniel stiffened. His eyes locked on a man near the newsstand. Late 30s, neat coat, too clean for this hour. He wasn't reading the papers. He was watching the platform entrance. Watching us. Move, Daniel whispered. Now. He didn't wait. Turned and walked fast toward the far end of the platform, away from the train doors. I followed, heart hammering against my ribs. We ducked into a service corridor marked staff only. The door clicked shut behind us, cutting off the noise of the station. Darkness. The smell of damp concrete and old oil. Distant hum of machinery. They spotted us, Daniel said, voice low. That guy wasn't alone. Looked like Viridian security. Or worse. What do we do? I asked, my voice barely a breath. We can't take that train. Not now. They'll be waiting on board or at the border checkpoint. We need another way out. He pulled out the cheap burner phone Anya gave us. Typed fast. Waited. A reply buzzed back almost instantly. Anya says there's a freight yard 2 miles east. Night shift changes at 1. Less security. She knows a driver heading toward the coast. He'll take us as far as the port. From there, we figure it out. It sounded desperate. Dangerous. But staying here meant capture. Or worse. We slipped out the back of the station through a loading bay into an alley slick with rain and grease. The city felt different at this hour, emptier but somehow more watchful. Street lights cast long jagged shadows. Every parked car seemed like it might hold someone waiting. We walked fast, weaving through side streets, avoiding main roads. Daniel kept glancing over his shoulder. Once he grabbed my arm, yanking me into a doorway as a black sedan rolled slowly past, its windows tinted dark. "They're using drones too," he muttered. "Thermal. Facial." Anya warned me. My legs ached. My mind raced. How could they move so fast? How did they find us so quickly? After what felt like hours but was probably only 20 minutes, we reached the edge of the freight yard. Chain link fence topped with razor wire. Floodlights crisscrossed the open space beyond, casting harsh white pools on rows of parked trucks and stacked shipping containers. There, Daniel pointed. A gap in the fence near a rusted drainage pipe. Anya said, "It's loose." We crawled through mud and gravel, scraping knees and palms. On the other side the ground was hard-packed dirt. The air smelled of diesel and wet metal. A lone figure stood near a blue cargo truck, idling softly. Hood up, face hidden. Daniel raised a hand in a short wave. The figure nodded once. We hurried across the open ground, keeping low. Halfway there a sharp crack split the air, not a gunshot but the sound of a branch snapping underfoot. We froze. From behind a stack of containers two figures emerged. Moving fast. Silent. Wearing dark tactical gear, no logos, no faces visible. "Run," Daniel hissed. He shoved me toward the truck, then turned to face them. "Go, Lena, go." I didn't argue. Sprinted the last few yards, sliding into the passenger seat as the driver, a grizzled man with a scarred cheek, yanked the door shut behind me. "Hold on," he growled. The truck lurched forward, tires spitting gravel. In the side mirror I saw Daniel sprinting after us, dodging between containers. One of the pursuers raised an arm. Not a gun. Some kind of device. A flash of blue light pulsed once. Daniel stumbled but kept running. Reached the back of the truck just as it hit the access road. Grabbed the rear ladder and hauled himself up. The driver didn't slow. Swerved onto a narrow service road leading out of the yard. Behind us floodlights swept the area. Sirens wailed in the distance, not police. Something else. Inside the cab it was quiet except for the rumble of the engine and my own ragged breathing. The driver glanced at me once. "You okay?" I nodded, unable to speak. Minutes passed. The city lights faded behind us, replaced by dark fields and winding country roads. Rain started again, soft at first, then heavier, drumming on the roof. Daniel dropped into the cab from the back, soaking wet and shaking. He didn't say anything, just leaned his head back, closed his eyes for a long moment. "You hurt?" the driver asked. "No," Daniel said, voice rough. "But they tagged me." "That pulse, it's a tracker. Subdermal. Slows you down, makes you visible on their grid," the driver cursed under his breath. "How long before they lock on?" "Minutes maybe. If they're pushing hard. We're 10 minutes from the docks. You'll have to jump before the gate. There's a fishing boat leaving at 3 a.m. Captain owes me. He'll take you to Rotterdam. From there, you're on your own." Daniel nodded. Pulled the USB drive from his coat. Handed it to me. "Keep this safe. Don't let go. Not for anything." I tucked it deep inside my jacket next to my skin. Cold metal against my chest. As we neared the harbor the road narrowed. Warehouses loomed like sleeping giants. The driver slowed near a chain-link fence bordering the water. Here. Now. We scrambled out into the rain. The truck didn't stop, just kept rolling, disappearing into the night. Daniel led me through a gap in the fence, down a slippery embankment to a narrow dock. The sea churned black and restless below. A small fishing trawler bobbed at anchor, its deck lit by a single yellow bulb. An old man stood at the rail. Nodded when he saw Daniel. Threw down a rope ladder. We climbed fast. Hands numb, feet slipping on wet rungs. On deck the captain handed us dry blankets without a word. Motioned below. The cabin was cramped, smelling of fish and salt and old wood. A single bunk. A small stove. Maps pinned to the walls. Daniel finally let out a breath he'd been holding since the station. We made it. But his eyes stayed sharp. Listening. Always listening. I sat on the edge of the bunk, clutching the blanket. The USB drive pressed hard against my ribs. Outside the rain fell harder. Waves slapped against the hull. Somewhere far off a foghorn groaned. How long until Rotterdam, I asked. 2 days if the weather holds, Daniel said. Then we find Elena. Anya's sister. She's our only shot. He looked at me, then really looked. Saw the fear, the exhaustion, the thousand questions in my eyes. I'm sorry, he said softly. For all of this. For the coffin. For dragging you into this mess. I shook my head. You didn't drag me. They did. And if what you say is true, then this drive isn't just your fight. It's everyone's. He reached out, touched my hand. His fingers were still cold, but his grip was steady. Above deck the anchor chain rattled. The engine coughed to life. The boat began to move, pulling away from the dock into the dark open water. We were running again. But this time we had a direction. A purpose. And somewhere out there in the storm Viridian was hunting. But we were already gone. Part 4: The Trap and the Sacrifice. 2 days at sea felt like a lifetime. The fishing boat rocked endlessly beneath us, groaning with every swell. Salt hung thick in the air, clinging to skin and clothes. We stayed below deck most of the time, speaking only in whispers, jumping at every creak of the hull. Sleep was shallow, broken by dreams of coffins and faceless men in dark suits. Daniel barely ate. He spent hours staring at the small porthole, watching the gray horizon as if expecting danger to rise from the waves. He checked the burner phone Anya gave us once a day, just long enough to see if there was a signal, then powered it off again. No messages came. The silence felt heavier than the storm clouds gathering on the second night. When Rotterdam's harbor lights finally appeared through the rain-streaked glass, relief warred with dread. We were out of the open water, but now we were back in the world that wanted us gone. The captain dropped us at a quiet dock before dawn, far from customs and cameras. He handed Daniel a folded map and a small envelope of cash. Good luck was all he said. Then the boat pulled away, vanishing into the mist like it had never been there. Rotterdam was colder than I expected. Wind whipped off the water, sharp and wet. We found a cheap hostel near the train station, paid in cash, took a room on the top floor with 2 narrow beds and a window that rattled in the wind. For the first time in days, we dared to speak above a whisper. Anya's sister Elena works at a digital rights office near the university, Daniel said, unfolding the map. She doesn't know we're coming. Anya said it was safer that way. But she'll recognize the code phrase. What phrase? The river runs backward. Sounds strange, but it's what they used when passing sensitive files. I nodded, memorizing it. My fingers brushed the USB drive hidden in my sock. It felt heavier now, like it carried the weight of everything we'd lost. We waited until late afternoon to move. Blended into the stream of students and commuters heading home. The digital rights office was tucked above a bookstore, its windows glowing warm against the gray afternoon. A small sign with a shield logo hung crookedly beside the door. Daniel went up first. I waited on the street corner, pretending to check a non-existent watch, scanning the faces passing by. No one looked twice at me. No black sedans idling nearby. Just ordinary people living ordinary lives. 5 minutes later he came back down alone. His face was tight. She's not there. Her co-worker said she left early. Said she got a call. Sounded upset. My stomach dropped. A call. Yeah. From someone claiming to be her sister's friend. Said Anya was hurt. Needed help. It hit us both at the same time. A trap. Clean. Simple. And cruel. They have her, I whispered. Daniel's jaw clenched. He looked up at the office window, then back at me. They're using her to draw us out. Or to get the drive. What do we do? He didn't answer right away. Just stared down the street where tram wires crisscrossed the sky. When he spoke his voice was low and steady. We go to her. But not the way they expect. He led me through a maze of back alleys and covered markets, doubling back twice to lose any tail. Finally we stopped in a narrow courtyard behind an old church. Rain dripped from rusted gutters, pigeons scattered as we entered. This is it, he said. The message said meet here if contact is compromised. Midnight. But it wasn't midnight yet. And the courtyard wasn't empty. Near the far wall, half hidden by ivy-covered stone, stood a figure. Slumped. Bruised. One eye swollen shut. It was Anya. 2 men flanked her. Tall. Silent. Dressed in plain dark clothes that screamed authority without showing a badge. Their hands rested near their hips, not quite on weapons, but close enough. My breath caught. Daniel stepped in front of me, shielding me with his body. One of the men stepped forward. Smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. Mr. Hayes. Or should we say Ghost, you've caused quite a mess. Daniel didn't flinch. Let her go. She's not part of this. Oh, but she is. She helped you vanish. She warned your wife. She's been feeding you intel from inside Viridian for weeks. That makes her very much part of this. He glanced at me. And you brought the package. Good. Makes this easier. The drive stays with me, Daniel said flatly. The man chuckled. You don't get to choose. Hand it over. Both of you come quietly. Or we start removing pieces of her until you do. Anya tried to speak, but it came out as a choked sob. Blood trickled from her split lip. Daniel's hand found mine under his coat. Squeezed once. Hard. A signal. A goodbye. Then he moved. Not toward the men. Not toward Anya. He turned and sprinted toward a rusted metal staircase bolted to the church wall, a fire escape leading to the roof. Go, he yelled over his shoulder. Run, Lena, go now. Chaos erupted. The 2 men shouted, drawing weapons, not guns, but compact devices that hummed with a low electric buzz. They lunged after Daniel. I didn't think. I ran. Not toward the street. Toward the alley behind the church, just as Daniel had planned. I heard shouts behind me. A sharp crack, metal hitting stone. A grunt of pain. I risked one look back. Daniel was on the second landing, grappling with one man, shoving him hard against the railing. The other was climbing fast, device raised. Then I saw it. Daniel locked eyes with me across the courtyard. Just for a second. In that look was everything: love, fear, regret, and a fierce, burning certainty. He let go of the railing. Not to fight. Not to flee. He jumped. Straight down onto the cobblestones. The impact was sickening. A thud that echoed off the stone walls. The two men froze. Stunned. I didn't wait. I turned and ran harder than I ever had before. Tears blurred my vision, but I didn't stop. Didn't look back. Daniel's sacrifice bought me seconds. Maybe minutes. I had to make them count. I wove through alleys, vaulted low fences, ducked into shop doorways. My lungs burned. My legs screamed. But I kept moving. Away from the courtyard. Away from the body. Toward the river. Because that's what he'd told me to do at the warehouse. At the station. At every turn. Go to the river. Rotterdam's canals twisted like veins through the city. I followed the widest one, stumbling along the slick embankment until I reached a deserted stretch near old warehouses. Rain fell harder now, washing the tears from my face, mixing with the grime and sweat. I didn't hesitate. I climbed over the railing and dropped into the icy black water. The cold stole my breath. The current grabbed me instantly, pulling me downstream. I kicked hard, letting it carry me away from the lights, away from the docks, away from the place where Daniel lay broken on the stones. Above me, sirens began to wail. Not police. Different. Sharper. I swam with the flow, keeping my head low, surfacing only to gasp quick breaths before diving under again. Every shadow on the bank felt like a watcher. Every ripple could be a drone. Minutes bled together. My muscles turned to lead. My thoughts fogged with cold and grief. But I held on to one thing. The drive. Still pressed against my skin, wrapped in plastic, safe. Daniel was gone. Again. But this time I knew why. He didn't die in a car crash. He died buying me time. Buying the truth a chance. As the current swept me past silent factories and sleeping houseboats, I made a promise to the dark water. I would find Elena. I would unlock the drive. And I would make sure Viridian paid for every life they'd ruined. The river carried me deeper into the night. Alone. But not helpless. Not anymore.